Hi, everybody. Can I have your attention, please, for about 2 hours?
Not that long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody, welcome to the SEAT Summer Connect. This is our closing event of the season. And thank you all for coming. I can see we also have some future entrepreneurs, younger entrepreneurs to put it, so I'm really happy about it. So
Future
welcome.
entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so welcome everybody, especially younger entrepreneurs. So we had a great and really busy year so far. And if you look around you, I bet you don't know all the faces. That's because SEAT community is growing, which is good. And the fun fact, this is our event number 76 so far this year. And after that, we're having a break, and we're really happy about it. But thank you. And as always, SEAT community meetings are not just about a party. And I promise you it's coming.
They never are.
They never are, yeah. We have some great guests, some really interesting stuff, and some fun at the end. But this event is also special for another reason.
Yeah, because it's a second generation of AVE. It's actually AVE. We call it AVE in Slovenian. Otherwise, it's all Academy of Women Entrepreneurs. So second generation is actually closing and finishing the program today with their top 10 remarkable breakthrough entrepreneurs are going to pitch and present their businesses and their stories. And we're all going to select top 3.
I think you saw those little leaflets that says, "Tell me more in salt," and they'll be useful a bit later, so hold on to them. So we also have Emily Ross, right?
Yeah, Emily came for the second time. Our dear friend from Ireland, 2 years ago, she came here as an Irish entrepreneur, building and helping, she was like a creative, strategic marketing mind, and we loved her. 2 years later, she's a Twitter director, not the CEO, but for the EMEA region, right? But it's a Twitter next, so look, we are really happy to have you here, Emily.
Yeah, welcome again. Good family. And we also have a CEO. So in these uncertain times, we'll talk about leadership, resilience with the SEAF CEO, Paul Sheehan. Did I pronounce that right? Yeah, okay. He's got a vast know-how across continents on this topic, and I'm sure it's going to be a really interesting talk with him.
Because we want to start fast, right? But before we start, I would really love to invite to the stage our incredible partner, so Michael Marble. Michael is actually a public diplomacy officer.
Thank you.
At the U.S. Embassy in Ljubljana, and he's really been supporting all our endeavors, in supporting female entrepreneurs in Slovenia, and it's been incredible, so thank you.
It has been our pleasure to work with you and to empower and to help so many women go through this process. The all women who are present who have gone through this join over 25,000 women worldwide in over 100 countries who have gone through this program. We consider it a national security priority to empower women, to give them the chance for economic growth and to have a real impact within their communities. So I want to say thank you for all of you for making it through. Congratulations. And I also want to thank, as we mentioned, this is the second iteration going through. I want to thank all the mentors, those who have helped out from the SEED Network, but also those who went through the process last year, who are able to give of their time and their expertise to help and nurture these women go through this process. So a big round of applause for the mentors. And also a wonderful thank you to SEED itself here in Slovenia, who have done such a wonderful job guiding, facilitating, helping everybody. It wouldn't happen without them, without their tireless and hard work. So thank you for being such wonderful partners and such a key priority. And I'm only thankful in the fact that we actually next year not only have another iteration coming up, but 2 iterations coming up next year. So I want to thank those from Slovene Philanthropy who are here, who are going to help the Ukrainian refugee women who are going to go through, as well as the normal iteration next year. So there's more to come, wonderful things. So thank you so much, Ali.
And we're not through with special guests. So with us is Peter, Peter Rigi. He's one of the guys who actually founded SEAT so many years ago. Yeah, Peter, great to have you here. Peter just flew in today, yeah. So a few thoughts maybe on SEAT in the community.
Perfect. Just thanks so much, Andre, and thank you all for being here today. It's such an honor to be here. They say, success has many fathers. And I may be a founder of SEED, but it has grown into something much, much bigger than I ever imagined when we first started. This community, I've seen it over 15 years, just really blossom and grow, and what it's meant to the country and what it's meant to the region and beyond is an impact that you may not even realize when you're here in this room. We've run this program in over 10 countries, on 4 different continents, in 18 different locations. I was just in Guatemala last week, where we're running SEED in a GROW program in Guatemala City in the Chela. So with some US counterparts as well. So it's really taken on a life of its own. But again, I'm just really privileged to be here today. I can't wait to hear the pitches that are going to come through. And in terms of, I like the acronym awe-inspiring, because I really believe that the work that you're doing and the push towards entrepreneurship and creating your own destiny is really what this whole program has been about from its beginning. So, Andre, Alia, thank you so much, and enjoy.
We have a great talk right now, and after that we'll have an award ceremony, and then we'll have networking. So yeah, thank you for coming back. Yeah, I'll say with a quote from Jerry Colonna. He's an entrepreneur. He was a guest in Slovenia a couple of times, and he said, "Better humans make better leaders." But at SEAT Slovenia, we also say vice versa. So good leaders make better humans, right? And here, I think the majority of you are entrepreneurs, and you are leaders, and you, or all of us who are leaders, we need to evolve all the time. Yeah, so we all read leadership books and listen to podcasts, and YouTube and so on. So knowledge is kind of cheap and really it's a commodity. But what we don't have is a chance to talk to people who are experienced. And SEAT, we believe in know-how sharing. So this is number one thing we're doing. And secondly, doing it the brutally honest way. So I'm in a bit of an awkward position right now because I have to ask.
So tell me your complaints.
Well, maybe later at the bar. Yeah. So Paul is who's with me right now. He's an American CEO, and we all watch movies, right, and read books from American CEOs, and we have a chance actually to talk to one. He's running SEAF. So the SEAF actually is a global impact fund based in Washington, D.C. And among other things, small detail, SEAF also funded and is running SEAT Global, which runs SEAT Slovenia. So, yeah.
So we're really all part of the same company, and that's why I'm here to learn from you.
Yeah. So let's get brutal.
You gave me your leadership lessons, so hopefully I can share some back.
Yeah. Let's get brutally honest, right? Just kidding. So first, Paul, yeah, it's really great to have you here. Your first time in Slovenia, right? It is. Yeah, and Paul actually came a few hours ago. So yeah, great to have you and all the guys here. Yeah, so you traveled the world a lot, and you actually worked in many different countries. I think it's around 30, right? And Asia, Europe, Africa, United States, of course. So we have experience in leadership all around the world. Can you tell us more about who you are? Because I gave just a short description, and I think people here deserve to know more about you.
Sure. I started off as a central banker, so I thought I was going to be an economist. I thought I was going to be a sort of man at a desk for the rest of my days, and I was very happy about it, which tells you how interesting I am. And I arrived in the middle of a financial crisis at 20 years of age at the Fed, and I said, hello, I'm your new extremely junior bachelor's trained economist. And they said, yeah, we're having a crisis. Raise your right hand, and you're now commissioned as a bank examiner, and you have to head towards the fire and put it out, or there won't be any need for economists. So every man was given a rifle and sent to the front, and it turned out to be a fantastic accident. I learned a lot. I was supposed to spend 1 year and then go back for a PhD, which I never did. So the world was deprived of, another mediocre economist. I would have looked just like the picture that my Irish cousin Emily put up in her presentation. In fact, I thought, I own that tie. Maybe I could have won a Nobel Prize. But I got into the problem of solving financial crises around the world, which unfortunately is a really good business because they don't go away and we keep having them. So I moved to Asia. Those of you who know about Asian financial history will laugh at this. I was recruited by an old colleague in 1996 to move to Asia. And he said, because you have to stop dealing with financial crisis and come out where it's booming. So this is why, when we talk about being brutally honest about our failures, I have never been much for calling macro trends. But I stayed in the region for 23 years, always looking at new countries and new opportunities, and it helped me develop a love for going around and seeing new things, meeting new people, listening to new stories. And thank you to all the women in the ALL program who shared your stories and your journey with us tonight. It's incredible to be here and to be a part of that, and to learn lessons from you. And then I relocated back to the U.S. during COVID. Another thing I never expected would happen, to help revamp SEAF, and help us carry on our mission. So whether it's on the fund investing side or on the community building side, which you all know from SEED, our mission is the same. We're about changing the world through entrepreneurs. Small companies are the engine that drives everything. And that's not just in Slovenia. It's not just in, some of the very deep frontier markets that we go to. It's not just the big developed markets. One of the interesting things about, the SME entrepreneurship space is that everywhere you go in the world, people have the same complaint. How can we support our SMEs better? Everywhere you go in the world, somewhere between 80 and 90% of people work for small companies. This is what runs all the economies. I know Twitter gets all the headlines, but that's not what makes the global economy. It's people running businesses, employing 10 people, and then 50, and then 100, and then 200, and it's hard. So SEAF has been doing this for 35 years, and I know Andre said we're brutally honest in this room, so we talk about failures. You don't have enough time. We've learned a lot of things that don't work while learning a few things that do work. So that's how I got here to be with you.
Thank you so much. You mentioned small companies, small businesses running the countries. Actually, here in Slovenia, I'm not sure if you knew that, but more than 80% of the bills for the money that government gets, and so we can send our children to schools and for healthcare and so on, actually comes from SMEs. And like you said, so Twitters and so on get the headlines, but entrepreneurs actually, in my opinion, are superheroes. So this is also my mission, why we're here. So you mentioned you worked around the world, and as an investor, or you said entrepreneurs are similar in every country, right? It's a common language. So how would you compare entrepreneurs in Asia, United States, Europe, Africa? Where are the differences? What's easier for them, or maybe what's easier here, and what are the challenges? Where are the differences? So why I'm asking, entrepreneurs know how hard it is, and you're just battling it every day, and maybe it will be useful to hear also that it's not just here in Slovenia like that.
Well, I'll start with the commonalities. Entrepreneurs everywhere have one thing in common, which is that we're dissatisfied. You start a company because there's something wrong. There's something that should exist that doesn't exist. There's a company that disappointed you, and you say, I could do this better. Right? And that part is the same all over the world. So one of the things that's really interesting is to see how much commonality there is in the attitude, of people in, rural Senegal or Afghanistan, where we ran a whole fund dedicated to female entrepreneurs. If you want to talk about a tough place to find female entrepreneurship, you have it easier in Slovenia. But the stories sound the same. We have problems, we want to solve them. What you have to work with is very different. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs in our more frontier countries where they're aiming at things like basic necessities of life, and it teaches you to see the simplest things as being very complex. It may surprise those of you seeing me here. I don't know a lot about farming. Anyone think I look like I might be a farmer? No. It turns out it's a lot more complicated than I think just going to the supermarket and buying things. There's more, and Peter can tell you a lot about this because he learned and he taught me. It turns out there's more than one kind of wheat. One of my learnings for you. And there's just as much innovation in companies that are dealing with irrigation and seeds and how to get things to market as there is in technology. And once again, not to pick on my my Irish cousin while she's out of the room now. Tech gets all the headlines, but there's just as much innovation in other sectors of the economy. And that's something that I think it took going around the world for me to appreciate. It turns out when I came home, there's more than one kind of wheat in America too. I just wasn't paying attention.
Great.
During the pandemic, everyone started baking a lot, so we all became even more conversant with different types of wheat.
Great. So it's the pain and suffering is everywhere, but it can be harder. But what can you say? What are the advantages of having an SME in Slovenia or European Union?
Advantages of having an SME in Slovenia or the European Union. I mean, first of all, Slovenia is my first time here, but I can already tell Slovenia is a really nice place to be. So the first advantage is you get to stay in Slovenia. But secondly, advantages that you take for granted that you don't necessarily have elsewhere. It's a fairly high trust environment. If you do business in a place like Indonesia, where there's much more corruption, you can't have trust at any point in the system, or Mongolia, where these bonds have never been formed. That can be a lot more difficult as an entrepreneur because you have to watch everything all the time. And here I'll say something as a banker and as an American. Payments in the EU are so much better. And you look at it and you say, why has the rest of the world not just adopted this? And that, frankly, is one of the advantages of having a global network And I hope that SEED is giving you a flavor for that here in Slovenia, where you take ideas from the other chapters. There are so many things that we don't have to invent because they've already been fixed elsewhere, and we just have to open our eyes and be willing to try them or adopt them elsewhere. So those would be two things that I would highlight.
Cool, perfect. Actually, we say here at SEED Slovenia that every entrepreneurial problem was already solved somewhere, so you can meet them at SEED. So I guess that's one of the reasons why you're here, right? And if we go back to leadership, so you worked with, so you mentioned you were in different companies, and how many different leaders did you work with, or with how many people? Can you give us an estimate?
I mean, I worked for a lot of people, not all of them leaders.
Can you dig deeper into this? Yeah, what's the definition? Yeah.
I mean, I've worked in probably a dozen places, everything from 4-person firms to giant global banks. Everyone thinks that they have the best leadership and management. I would urge you to revisit that judgment, and of course government, where I want to say I found some of the most committed people and some of the best managers. People in the business community are sometimes very down on government. The people I worked with when I was in government were really superb, and I had some excellent leaders there.
Cool. What do you think makes a good leader? I know it's a broad question.
It is a broad question, and by answering it, it implies that I know. And there are too many of my colleagues here in the room for me necessarily to say that. I'm going to say one thing that I think may sound counterintuitive, but maybe not, because after the presentations that we've had tonight, I think a number of people have caught on to the same things. What a leader does best is say no a lot, because you are defined not just by what you do, but by what you don't do. So if we go back to, again, Emily's presentation seriously, one of the things that stood out for me was to say, we are confronted with a deluge of information and a deluge of opportunities. And I see my friend in the pet grooming business who is nodding, because you said the same thing. When I looked at what I was doing, I realized I had to stop doing some things. And as a leader, what you do to set the tone is, it's easy to say yes to everything. So I couch it as saying no is important, because deciding where to focus is the thing that only a leader can do, right? And those of you, depending on where you are in your business journey in the room, I think you all have hit this point, or you're going to hit this point. You start off with a business and it grows, and you hire people, and you hire the people who are available and the people you think might do the job, and you can still do all of the jobs in your business as well or better than anybody else. But you can't succeed that way beyond a certain point. You have to hire people who are better than you are at everything, which is very humbling for an entrepreneur to get over, right? Because you started the business and you're used to being able to do everything and showing everyone what to do and being the star. And they say A players hire A players. B players hire C players. So you get to the point where everyone in your organization is doing their job better than you possibly could. So what is left there for you to do? The thing that you have is the view of the vision and the focus. And so don't say yes to everything. Say no to a lot of things. Probably where I've failed, it's by not saying no to enough things. You have to manage your time, you have to manage the time of your people. your strategy will come from this, because strategy is what you're going to do. Where are we going to play? Where are we going to win? And it can't be everywhere. So you have to make those choices. And even bigger than strategy in your company is culture. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Strategy is what you tell the investors when they come around, and you can make a PowerPoint and you can put it in a deck. And culture is what you do when no one is watching. And culture is just as much about focus and things we don't do. We have cultural values in our organization. There are things that will get you a swift ticket out of SEAF. And I hope everybody knows what they are. And they are not making a mistake. They are not losing a lot of money, because I'd be gone. I've made some terrible, terrible, terrible investments in my day, and I hope like 53% of the time I make good ones. That's how you get to keep going. But you won't be rejected for making a mistake, making an error, getting angry. Not cooperating with your colleagues, not helping someone from another country, another office, another division who comes to you, hoarding opportunities. These are things that we don't do, we say no to in the culture. And so those two things together really form, to me, the essence of what a leader has to do, is just narrow down that focus to what are we going to do.
Wow. So you said you started really humble, but I think you gave a really great description of what is a
Now I'll
great
leave the
leader.
room, and everyone else will tell you whether that's what really happens at SEAF. That would be interesting.
But
Jamal's not holding up his buy card for me. He held it up for everybody else. Everything was sold except.
We actually took the cards away, so that's why. That's why. Thank you for this answer. It's one of the best ones I heard. So it's you mentioned the role of the entrepreneur and hiring A-listers and so on. And do you think entrepreneurs should become a CEO when the time comes? The company grows and so on, or should he or she find a CEO and then step out? And when is that?
You have to be brutally honest with yourself, and you need at least two good friends who are going to be brutally honest with you when you're not brutally honest with yourself. I mean, it depends on two things. The first is, do you have the skills to make that transition? The skill of starting a business, the skill of scaling a business is different from the skill of running something bigger. So the first thing to look at is, could I do this? What would I have to learn? What skills would I have to acquire? You always have to be changing in business, right? You can't just say, well, is it in me? Let me look. Ooh, it says CEO. Good. It was in me all along, and I will discover it. No, it's hard work. You have to gain skills. You have to do things that you're bad at. And it's hard because you're giving up the things that you're good at to someone else, and you're doing the things that you're bad at. So that's the first thing is do you realistically have the skills? Because if you don't, you care about your business, you say, well, I want to hire the best person for that job, and that person might not be me. If SEAF grows into BlackRock, guess what? I'm probably not going to be CEO anymore. I shouldn't be CEO anymore. There are other people who would do that job better than me. My job is to well, not get us all the way there, but get us on that trajectory. And then the second thing, and this is the hardest part, because you have to be brutally honest with yourself about what you like. Do you want to be the CEO of a big company? A lot of people convince themselves that I've seen, and we go through transitions with entrepreneurs, they convince themselves that they want this because they wanted to build a company and they love seeing it get bigger and successful, and they like coming to events like this and getting to be a mentor and then getting to be a speaker and then being in magazines. and they think this is what I should want, and I should sit in the headquarters office behind a big desk, and I should do the things that CEOs do, and I should worry about what our policy manual says. And I don't make fun of that, because those are real important things that have to be done. But a lot of times, people who like being entrepreneurs don't like that life. And some of you, I think, are entrepreneurs because you already realized, I don't want that life. So are you going to let yourself get sucked back into it at some point just because you say, well, I love my company and I love my people and they seem to expect it of me, so maybe I have to do it. If you are miserable being a CEO, you are not going to be a good CEO. So get out of the way, let somebody else do it, demote yourself into something that you think you're the best at and that you enjoy doing, or go start another company. We have also seen in our life cycle, we have a lot of repeat founders. And some of them fall into that because they realize, well, yeah, I sold the company and I got bored. And some of them are intentional about it. They say, yeah, once it gets past 50 or 60 people, I don't like it anymore. I'm not the right gal for it. I like when I know everybody's name and we can all sit around a table together. And then when it gets big, I let somebody else have it, and I'm going to go do another one. So only you know the answer to that question.
Wow, perfect. I think we have a well of interesting answers, actually. Your leadership, and I think you defined, or you said well, so what do you think is important? What has changed, or what had the biggest impact on your leadership? So you mentioned, so did you make a mistake, or did you read a book, or did you, what happened that changed you as a leader the most? I know it's a hard question, but
it is a hard question. I think modeling yourself on people that you see and trying to realize what it is that makes you think that they're successful in the role, at least it was a helpful way for me to understand what I liked about them. And to realize that a lot of my satisfaction came from seeing people that I had trained that had worked for me, as I moved up, going on to do, bigger and better things elsewhere, and realizing that they still valued the time that we spent together, and that made me, I think, maybe think a little bit more intentionally about what it means. It's an important role to be somebody's boss, to be somebody's manager. Whether you're a CEO or running a division or running something small, you have a lot of impact on people's lives. And I think maybe it's good that I didn't realize that at a very young age, because it would have been too daunting to do it. But once I did realize it, I tried to work on it a little more. I mean, I like what you said about better humans make better leaders. We're all working on that.
one more question regarding managing yourself. We get a lot from our members.
I'm a very difficult employee. I have more problems with me than with anybody else.
Come on. We're still waiting for that somebody will say a magic formula which will solve the problems. But, keeping a cool head and managing stress and stuff like that, so everybody here deals with that.
All of those would be good ideas. I'll work on them.
I mean, seriously, do you have any suggestion, or how to do that, or?
You'll get to know Paul. Time management is everything. How you spend your time, defines your life. I know this because I'm very bad at it. I'm very bad at time management, which leads to spillover into other areas. I would like to think that a successful leader is setting a good example by going home on time and having good work boundaries. And by that measure, I am far from a success. But I do keep track of my time and where it goes, and I try to compare it to You know, I have a list of things that are important to me in my role, and it's taped up in my office to the cabinet just to my right, so I can turn and see it. And I have 5 things on that list, and there are days when I look at the list of tasks and I compare it to the 5 things on the list, and anything that isn't touching one of the things on the list just goes. And 5 things might be too many. It's hard.
Yeah, you know what's the next question, right?
What are let's see if I can name them all. The first is, and given that we work in a lot of interesting places, no surprise, the safety and security of all the people who work for SEAF. That is the first thing. We've always got people who are traveling. We go to some conflict-ridden places. No one at SEAF will go anywhere that I won't go. So that is always uppermost. The second thing is we're responsible for other people's money. Other people's money, not anywhere near as important as other people's lives, because we can lose money and get it back. But they still like for us to take it seriously. So keeping track of third-party money, whether it's in the form of funds, whether it's in the form of grants, that's the second thing. If you want to get my attention, call me up and tell me either someone is in trouble or we have a problem accounting for something. Number 3 is helping the team to do good deals for entrepreneurs. That's our mission, and you might think the mission would be number 1, but we couldn't get there without the first 2. The fourth thing, so really number 2 after the 2 unbreakable rules, is to make sure that all the people who are at SEAF and SEED are constantly getting developed in what they want to do. And sometimes that means elsewhere. We are just losing our general counsel. She's going to a client, which means I can't even be upset about it. But I'm happy. She's worked for us for 7 years. She came to us first part-time to get away from being at a big law firm where she was an intellectual property litigator. She said, having nothing to do with development. And I really liked what you do, and I wanted to see if I could get into development. And I didn't know anything about it. And she taught herself everything. She's been an amazing general counsel and a partner to me and everybody else around the world. And when she came to me and said, okay, so I have a job offer. And then I was prepared with a list of ways to keep her. And she said, but they've given me a policy job at the U.S. Development Bank. And I closed my mouth because that is the one thing we can't give her, we can't compete with. And instead I have to be happy and I have to say, this is amazing. You came here and now you're going to go to one of our clients and make policy. Help me find somebody else good before you go. But that is a victory for us. We're all people. We're not a machine. And then the fifth thing, which is similar, but it's for us as an organization, is how do we keep being a learning organization? How do we spread the things that we know, not just in the form of people, but how do we figure out the lessons that we've learned and share them with other people? We're not, as a mission-driven organization around entrepreneurs. I mean, SEAF is never going to solve the problem of how do you help entrepreneurs in every country around the world, right? So we don't keep anything secret. We need to spend a lot of time and effort in publicizing the things that we found that do work and the things that we found that don't work. And again, brutally honest, many things we found do not work. And we try to be just as honest about going around to people and saying, well, if you want to do a program in this country, what we've learned is don't do any of this. And they say, well, have you found out what works? And sometimes we say, not yet. But here's some things that have worked elsewhere. And that's our contribution to everybody in our community, the same way that you guys are here helping each other. You're not keeping everything you've learned in your own company and saying, oh, it's a secret. It's a secret. I learned about franchising. I'm not going to tell anybody. I learned about franchising. I'm going to help as many people as I can. So that's the note I would end on. And I named all 5. So
Yeah, congrats. Amazing, thank you. Paul, thank you so much for being here and for sharing everything. I think I'm going to go again through the recording to just note everything.